So how's Graviton doing? What's the 10,000 foot view of Graviton?
Our customers seem to really, really enjoy Graviton because it's awesome it's got great compute performance. It's really good for their scale out workloads. We're innovating really quickly. One thing I love about the whole idea of Graviton is that because we have good insights into our customer workloads, we can use those to very directly figure out, okay, what are the most important features that we need to put into the next generation? And do we need to add more memory bandwidth? Do we need to add more concurrency in terms of more vCPUs? We've got customers doing machine learning inferencing. They're doing encryption, decryption. So, and this doesn't mean that in any way we're looking at the workloads. It means we're looking at very, very low level system utilization. But being able to do that and saying, how can we keep on understanding that, feed that into the design, get that design built and available to customers? Getting that cycle to run very, very quickly, to me, is the awesome thing that we're able to do with Graviton.
It's pretty incredible that we're, like you said, we're already on the third iteration of them, plus the Inferentium, the Trainium, the different variants there. It's incredible that a physical process that's one of the most complicated manufacturing processes in existence can be iterated upon that quickly.
I really agree. And if I could really kind of plug something we're doing really quickly, tomorrow we're running this online event called the Silicon Innovation Day. And all of these principal engineers that I was just talking about earlier, all of those that are doing the actual detailed hardware and system design, we're going to get to hear directly from all those folks. And in fact, I'm doing a fireside chat tomorrow with Anthony, who's one of the folks behind the Nitro system.
All right, awesome. We're really looking forward to this one. There are just so many questions we have about the Graviton processor and the nitty-gritty details inside. Like it, for me. By the way, as you were talking about the Gravtion process, I think looking at all of these announcements, one of the things that AWS has been doing really well, at least from the customer side of things, is taking all the managed services and just swapping them out with Graviton processor, or at least offering Graviton as a option for all of those managed services, which makes it really simple for anyone to switch over, because even the migration and stuff is just taken care of. Apart from those, how easy or difficult has it been for customers to switch over to Graviton?
It really depends on the particular workloads. If customers are using basically like interpreted languages or scripting languages, it's generally very, very easy. Sometimes if you're using something like Python, you've got to make sure that your library is available for the ARM architecture. If it's a compiled language, of course, you need to make sure that your whole tool chain is able to compile for that architecture. But by and large, I'm hearing that's pretty easy for customers. Where we've sponsored some different like migration days and migration events, and helping customers to not just understand the benefits, but to actually go ahead and do those migrations pretty quickly. And I have to say, I've never heard a complaint. I've seen awesome benchmarks. Our customers, it's actually easier for our customers to share benchmarks than it is for us, because the customers own the most interesting, compelling real world use cases. And the customers can say, under our real world use case, this is what we measured. And the customers can be fully objective. They don't have any particular slants, and they've got no reason to point things one way or the other. Anytime we publish a benchmark, everybody can look at it with, is this legit, or are you slanting this a tiny bit? And the reality is we're very, very careful when we publish numbers to make sure that there's reproducibility all the way back to the bare metal of any of these numbers. When you see the numbers in my Prime Day post, those weren't just like we looked at a dashboard and snapshot it and say, it looks like 37%. We have to capture the data. We have to run the math. We generally have a couple different teams look at it to verify it. It has to go all the way through an approval process to say, are we 100% confident that these are the real numbers? And that means that we don't always want to work that process for each and every number that we have to share. The customers can be smaller, and they don't have to go through as much of a but it's not a bureaucracy. It's just to make sure that we're being as honest and fair as we possibly can be, and accurate.
Yeah,
But
without a doubt,
customer benchmarks are great to watch.
No, absolutely. We actually recently did a Java benchmark for a bunch of our workloads, and yeah, I mean the price performance and just overall performance of those of the Graviton 3s, the C7Gs are absolutely mind-boggling compared to what we were getting on the x86s.
It's hard to believe we're now in third generation after just a few years.
Yeah, I think 2018 was when Graviton was launched. Graviton 2, I think, came 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been 3 generations in just 4 years. Just pretty remarkable.
Now, one of the fun things I'm looking to learn some more about tomorrow is there's this fascinating idea especially with chip design. Generally, it applies to a lot of technology, but chip design especially is that each generation of chips gets to actually design its successors. And so the better you can run any kind of simulations, and the better your electronic design automation software works, the faster you can do that, the faster you can iterate. So there's this, it's almost recursion in reverse, where you're recursing back into time and saying, well, these chips were designed by generation N-1, and N-1 was designed by N-2. And at some point we had no chips, so we did things by hand, or we had things built out of transistors, and those transistors were ultimately replacing things built from vacuum tubes. And it's fascinating to think of that dependency of how whatever you do depends on what came before and who came before.
I think I've heard several science fiction films start with this premise of the chips make themselves faster. And I just posted an article into the chat about, funny enough, you mentioned, ARM is saying how they're using the Gravitons. They've shifted their EDA loads onto Graviton. So ARM using Gravitons to design better ARMs, and that's just a self-reinforcing positive feedback loop.
It actually is. And this is not just theoretical and not just at the design stage either. A few years ago, one of the coolest places I've gotten to visit in my life was I got to visit a semiconductor fab, and it was actually jointly owned by Intel and Micron, if I remember. And it's so interesting and so complicated. There's all these robots and all these machines, but if you look inside any of the machines, like there's one company that makes a lot of the fab machines that actually take the wafers.
Yeah, ASML builds ASML.
Yeah, I think
ASML builds most of those, I think.
And if you carefully peer through the vents into these machines, of course, it's just more chips. And so there's this fascinating cycle of how those chips are now building their successors. And now, Stephen, coming back to your science fiction point, the other thing is, anytime you read the story of like, oh, and then we rebuilt civilization, it's actually really hard to do that. It's taken us many thousands of years to get where we are, and to think that, oh yeah, we just rebuilt everything from the plans or whatever, not going to happen.
Yeah, it would be really, really hard to bootstrap that from nothing, from raw materials.
Exactly.